Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be looking at the creative and spiritual journey of Mark Condy.
Okay.
He sees art as a pathway to deeper reflection and connection with the divine.
Right.
So we have excerpts from his book, The Journey of Coloring and Reflection.
Oh, cool.
So get ready.
So ready.
And unpack some fascinating insights.
What I find so interesting about Condy's approach is this idea that he doesn't separate art and spirituality.
Yeah.
They're interwoven for him,
Mm-hmm.
each one kind of enriching the other. And he uses coloring and journaling not just as creative outlets, but also as tools for spiritual growth.
It's pretty unique.
Yeah, it's a really unique perspective.
It makes me think about how we often compartmentalize things
Right.
in our lives, like work, spirituality, creativity, like they're separate boxes. Condy's approach feels very holistic.
I agree.
Curious to learn more about him.
Well, he describes himself as a seeker of peace and healing, someone deeply committed to his spiritual journey. And he also emphasizes the importance of being open to guidance,
Right.
allowing himself to be led to new understandings.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how that openness might connect to his creative process.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that process.
Yeah.
What exactly does he do?
Well, Condy's drawn to a specific form of art.
Okay.
Mandalas, those circular designs
Yeah.
inspired by nature.
Yeah, I know those.
Ripples on water, rings of a tree trunk. He sees those patterns as reflections of deeper truths,
Interesting.
echoing these themes of unity and wholeness.
It's almost like by recreating those patterns, he's tapping into that sense of interconnectedness.
Yeah.
It makes me think about Hildegard von Bingen,
Oh, yeah.
that 12th century mystic who also used mandalas
Yes.
to express her visions. It's fascinating to see how this form has been used across centuries for spiritual exploration.
Really speaks to the enduring power of these symbols.
Yeah.
But Condy doesn't just create mandalas.
Okay.
He pairs his art with a specific journaling practice, something that he learned from another fascinating figure named Mark Verkler.
Okay, so we've got art and journaling,
Yes.
two practices that are often seen as therapeutic or reflective.
Right.
How does Condy weave them together for spiritual growth?
Well, the journaling method that he uses emphasizes stillness and receptivity.
Okay.
It starts with quieting yourself,
Uh-huh.
creating that inner space for reflection. Then Condy focuses his attention on Jesus, allowing thoughts and feelings to flow spontaneously.
Okay.
It's about trusting the process, letting go of control and seeing what emerges.
Reminds me of that saying, leap in the net will appear. There's
Yeah.
a real element of faith involved in that kind of surrender.
Absolutely. And Condy takes that a step further.
Okay.
After journaling, he shares his writing with a trusted friend for feedback.
Interesting.
It's like having a spiritual sounding board to make sure his thoughts align with his faith.
Makes sense. But here's where things get really interesting for me.
Okay.
Condy uses AI to analyze his journal entries. It's like combining these ancient spiritual practices with cutting-edge technology. What's going on there?
Well, it's about extracting deeper insights from his reflections.
Okay.
So he uses AI to identify recurring themes and patterns in his writing.
So it's almost like,
Almost like a modern-day oracle helping him decipher these messages
wow.
within,
It's like he's using all the tools at his disposal,
yeah.
both ancient and modern, to deepen his understanding. I'm dying to know what he discovers.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we dive into some of those journal entries?
What struck me was how honestly Condy grapples with doubt and fear,
Okay.
even as he affirms his faith.
Uh-huh.
In one entry, he quotes Ephesians 2:10. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do.
That's a powerful verse.
It is.
But it's easy to say, God has a plan.
Right.
It's harder to actually believe it when life gets tough.
For sure.
How does Condy apply this to his own experience?
Well, he reflects on how creating art is his good work.
Okay.
The way he expresses his faith finds purpose. It's like the act of creation itself is a testament to that verse, a way of living out God's plan, even amidst uncertainty.
I see. So instead of waiting for some grand plan to unfold, he's actively participating in it through his art.
Exactly.
That's a really empowering perspective. I'm wondering, though, does he always feel so confident?
Not at all. He
Right.
has moments where he wrestles with the limitations he's placed on God,
Right.
almost afraid to fully believe in the possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
In another entry, he reflects on Philippians 1:6, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus.
It's that tension, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wanting to trust in God's power, but also battling our own doubts and fears.
Right.
It feels very human, very relatable. What does he say about navigating that tension?
He emphasizes the importance of practice and persistence in spiritual growth.
Okay.
He references Colossians 3:1-2,
Hmm.
which encourages us to set our hearts on things above
Yeah,
and
no.
focus on the eternal, not just the earthly.
I love how he ties this back to his art. He talks about how developing spiritual vision takes time and effort.
It does.
Just like honing any skill,
Right.
it demystifies the process. It makes spiritual growth feel more accessible, less daunting. It's not about instant enlightenment,
Right.
but consistent effort.
Exactly. And he links this to the idea of activating faith through action.
Okay.
He quotes Proverbs 3:5-56, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding in all your ways. Submit to him and he will make your path straight."
So it's not enough to simply believe. We have to put that belief into practice.
Right.
For Condy, that's where the coloring and journaling come in.
Yeah.
They're not just passive activities, they're acts of faith, ways of aligning his actions with his beliefs.
That's right. He even goes so far as to compare himself to Moses,
Wow.
asking God for guidance at a crossroads.
Okay.
He quotes 2 Corinthians 13:14, calling on the grace of Jesus, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit.
That's a raw, vulnerable moment.
It is.
What kind of crossroads was he facing?
He doesn't go into specifics,
Okay.
but you can feel the weight of his uncertainty. He talks about feeling trapped, unsure of what step to take next. It's like he's in the wilderness, seeking a sign, a direction to move in.
And he connects this to the idea of vision, right?
Yeah.
Both literal and metaphorical.
Yeah.
Remember him quoting Proverbs 29:18, where there's no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law happy is he.
Yes. He seems to be wrestling with this idea that without a clear sense of purpose, we can lose our way, but with God's guidance, we can find true happiness.
It makes me wonder, how does he go about finding that vision? Does he talk about that in his journal?
He does. He connects it to developing spiritual vision, referencing Ephesians 1:8. "I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened in order that you may know the hope to which he has called you, the riches of his glorious inheritance in his holy people."
That's a powerful image. The eyes of the heart being enlightened. It's not just about physical sight,
Right.
but about seeing with a deeper understanding. It reminds me of that analogy he uses comparing spiritual vision to focusing binoculars.
Yes, that's right. He talks about how you first have to point the binoculars in the right direction, then slowly adjust the focus until the image becomes clear.
And the more we focus on God, the clearer our vision becomes.
Right.
It's like exercising a muscle.
Right?
The more we use it, the stronger it gets.
And he doesn't shy away from the fact that this is a process.
Right.
There are times when he feels like he's lost his focus, when the image is blurry.
In one entry, he criticizes himself for getting too caught up in the doing of his faith, the silence, the stillness, and forgetting about the joy of simply being in God's presence. He quotes Isaiah 64:4. "Since ancient times, no one has heard, no ear has perceived, no eye has seen any God besides you who acts on behalf of those who wait for him."
It's a good reminder that practices like coloring and journaling are tools.
Right.
But the ultimate goal is connection with the divine. It's about experiencing that deep, abiding joy that comes from being in God's presence.
It's like he's reminding himself not to lose sight of the forest for the trees.
I'm struck by his honesty.
His willingness to acknowledge his own shortcomings, it makes his journey feel so much more relatable.
It does. And it also highlights the transformative power of combining creativity with spiritual reflection.
Yes.
It's not just about making pretty pictures or writing down thoughts.
Right.
It's about using those activities to delve deeper into ourselves and our relationship with the divine.
So we've talked about Condy's background, his journaling practice,
Right here.
and some of the key themes that emerge from his writing.
Yes.
But we haven't actually talked about how he creates these mandalas.
Yeah.
What's his process like?
It's surprisingly simple and accessible. He uses everyday objects like yogurt containers or CDs to trace circles.
Really?
Yeah. It's not about fancy art supplies or technical skill.
Interesting.
It's about the act of creation itself, the process of connecting with something deeper.
That's amazing. It shows that you don't need to be a professional artist to tap into your creative potential. You just need a willingness to experiment and explore.
Exactly. He encourages others to try it, emphasizing that anyone can create mandalas regardless of their artistic background. It's about the process, not the product.
So it's not about creating a masterpiece.
Right.
It's about the journey itself.
Yeah.
The act of creation is a form of spiritual practice. Starting to see how all these pieces fit together. The art, the journaling, the reflection, the AI analysis.
Yeah.
It's a multifaceted approach to deepening his connection with himself and the divine.
It is, and I think there's a lot we can learn from his approach, even if we don't share his specific beliefs.
I agree. His journey offers valuable insights into the power of creativity, reflection, and stillness in a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming.
And his emphasis on integrating those practices into everyday life feels both inspiring and attainable.
I think that's a perfect place to pause for. We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still so much more to explore.
Yes.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of Mark Condy. We're
Right.
picking up where we left off, exploring this intertwining of art reflection and spirituality that Condy so beautifully articulates in his book.
Uh-huh.
I'm ready to delve into more of his journal entries.
Right.
What about you?
Absolutely. I'm particularly drawn to the way that Condy navigates those moments of uncertainty.
Okay.
You know, those times when faith is tested and doubt creeps in?
Yeah.
It's in those entries that his vulnerability really shines through,
Right.
making his journey so relatable for anyone wrestling with similar questions.
You know, it's funny. We often talk about faith as this unwavering certainty,
Right.
but Condy's experience suggests it's far more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
It's about holding on to belief even amidst doubt,
Right.
trusting in a larger plan even when the path forward is unclear.
And he keeps returning to that image of trusting God as a shepherd,
Yeah.
drawing on those comforting words from Psalm 23.
Right.
It's like he finds solace in the idea of surrendering to a higher power,
Okay.
allowing himself to be guided towards a destination he can't yet see.
Even references Ecclesiastes 3.11 again, saying, "He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end."
Right.
It's like he's constantly reminding himself to trust in the unfolding of God's plan, even when it feels messy or confusing.
And yet, despite that trust,
Uh-huh.
there's still this tension. He wrestles with difficult decisions, questioning whether he's truly aligning his actions with God's will. It's not blind faith.
Right.
It's an active struggle to discern the right path forward.
It makes me wonder if he's using AI to analyze his journal entries.
Yeah.
Is he also looking for confirmation of his decisions there?
That's a good question.
Is he seeking some kind of technological validation of his spiritual path?
That's a fascinating question. And it gets to the heart of the potential pitfalls of relying on technology for spiritual guidance.
Okay.
Is it a tool for deeper reflection?
Right.
Or a crutch that prevents us from fully engaging with our own intuition and discernment? Condy doesn't explicitly address that tension, but it's something worth pondering as we consider the role of technology in our own spiritual lives.
Yeah, it is. There's one entry where Condy talks about the importance of making time for God. Quoting Psalm 19.1, "The heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands."
Right.
I'm curious, what does he mean by making time in this context?
No.
Is it about formal prayer or something more expansive?
He seems to be talking about cultivating a sense of awareness,
Okay.
of attuning yourself to the presence of the divine in everyday moments.
Okay.
It's about pausing to appreciate the beauty of creation,
Uh-huh.
using it as a springboard for deeper contemplation and connection. He talks about feeling like he's on a large ship slowly turning,
Interesting.
using that metaphor to describe a period of transition in his life.
Wow.
I found that image so striking.
Yeah.
It captures the feeling of knowing something big is happening, even if you can't see the immediate results.
It speaks to the need for patience, for trusting the journey, even when progress feels imperceptible.
Right.
It's a reminder that transformation takes time, that growth often unfolds in subtle, unseen ways.
And he links this to the idea of surrendering to God's timing,
Okay.
of accepting that things will unfold as they should, not necessarily on our predetermined timeline.
Right.
It's about letting go of the need to control outcomes, allowing ourselves to be carried by a current larger than ourselves.
Now, it reminds me of something you mentioned earlier, Condy's emphasis on God's desire to work in our lives.
Yes.
He references Galatians 5.22233, describing the fruit of the Spirit as love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. It's like he believes that God is actively shaping us into the people we're meant to be, but we also have a role to play in that process.
It's that beautiful dance between surrender and agency. We
Yeah.
can't force transformation,
Right.
but we can create the conditions for it to occur. We can cultivate those qualities within ourselves,
Yeah.
knowing that God is working alongside us, guiding us towards wholeness.
You know, there's something about Condy's willingness to embrace the messiness of it all that I find so refreshing.
I agree.
He doesn't shy away from doubt, from questioning, from those moments when faith feels fragile.
Yeah.
It makes his journey feel more authentic, more human.
I agree. He's not presenting a polished, idealized version of spirituality.
Right.
He's acknowledging the struggles, the uncertainties, the moments when we feel lost or disconnected.
Right.
And yet he holds on to this belief that there's something greater at work.
Yeah.
A love that sustains us even in the darkest of times.
It's that honesty that makes his writing so compelling.
Yes.
He's not preaching from a position of authority. He's sharing his own lived experience.
Right.
His own wrestling with the big questions.
Yeah.
And in doing so, he gives us permission to do the same.
He invites us to question our assumptions, to challenge our beliefs, to find our own unique path to connection and meaning. It's about embracing the journey with all its twists and turns, knowing that the destination is less important than the growth we experience along the way.
His journey is a testament to the power of personal reflection, the transformative potential of creativity,
Right.
and the enduring search for meaning that connects us all. He shows us that we don't need to be theologians or artists to connect with our spirituality.
Right.
We can find moments of grace and inspiration in the simplest of things,
Yeah.
like coloring a mandala or journaling our thoughts and feelings.
Yes.
It's about creating space for stillness and reflection,
Yeah.
allowing ourselves to be open to whatever emerges.
Mm.
I'm curious what stands out to you as we delve into these themes. What resonates most deeply with you?
For me, it's the reminder that spiritual growth is not a linear process.
Okay.
It's not about reaching some predetermined destination,
Right.
but about the journey itself, the
Yeah.
twists and turns,
Yeah.
the moments of doubt and clarity, the ongoing process of self-discovery.
It's like that saying, life is about the journey, not the destination.
Right.
But it's so easy to get caught up in the pursuit of some imagined endpoint that we forget to appreciate the beauty of the present moment.
Right.
Condy's willingness to share his own struggles, his own moments of uncertainty, makes his journey feel so much more relatable.
It does.
It's like he's saying, hey, it's okay to not have it all figured out.
Exactly.
It's okay to ask questions, to challenge your beliefs, and to find your own unique path.
Right.
I think that's incredibly liberating, especially in a world that often tells us we need to have all the answers.
Yes.
That we need to present this polished, perfect version of ourselves.
It is, and it's a message that I think we all need to hear.
Yeah.
Condy's work is a reminder that it's okay to be a work in progress.
Right.
To embrace the messiness of life and to trust that even in the midst of uncertainty, we're still moving towards something beautiful.
That's a powerful message to carry with us as we navigate the complexities of our own lives. It's a reminder that the journey is the destination, that growth is a process, and that even amidst the doubt and uncertainty, there's a deeper truth waiting to be discovered.
And sometimes all it takes is a blank page, a few colored pencils, and a willingness to listen to the whispers of our own hearts to find that truth.
Beautiful. Well, this has been an incredibly rich and thought-provoking conversation. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of Condy's work,
I agree.
but I'm eager to hear what else he has to share. Welcome back to our final deep dive into the world of Mark Condy and his book, The Journey of Coloring and Reflection. It's been such a fascinating exploration of his creative and spiritual process.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about his personal journey, those moments of doubt and discovery that feel so universal, so human. But what really struck me is how Condy's reflections ultimately lead him to a broader question. What is ministry?
It's a huge question, one that's been debated and pondered for centuries. When I think of ministry,
Right.
I often picture traditional religious roles. Pastors, priests, those in formal positions of spiritual authority.
Yeah.
Condy seems to be suggesting a different perspective.
He challenges that narrow definition. For him, ministry isn't confined to a specific role or profession.
Okay.
It's a way of being in the world, a way of expressing our love for God through our actions, our interactions, the way we choose to live our lives.
So it's less about preaching from a pulpit and more about embodying our faith in everyday moments.
Exactly. It makes me think about that quote often attributed to St. Francis of Assisi, preach the gospel at all times and when necessary, use words.
Exactly. And Condy finds this expression of ministry in unexpected places.
Yes.
He recounts a time when he was invited to teach a class
Right.
on his creative process, but for various reasons, it never came to fruition.
Oh, wow.
Initially, he sees this as a missed opportunity,
Right.
but then something shifts.
Mm.
He realizes that by writing this book, sharing his process and insights in such a personal way, he's engaging in a different form of ministry.
Yeah, it's like he's saying, even if I can't teach a formal class, I can still offer my gifts, my experiences to inspire and guide others. It's a beautiful example of how ministry can manifest in creative and unexpected ways.
It makes me think about all the ways we can minister to those around us, through acts of kindness, through sharing our talents,
Right.
through simply being present and supportive. It doesn't require a title or a position.
No.
It's about recognizing the sacred in the everyday, seeing those moments as opportunities for connection and service.
And Condy doesn't shy away from the complexities of this evolving understanding of ministry.
Right.
He even grapples with how technology fits into the picture.
Right. Remember how he uses AI to analyze his journal entries?
Yes, it's that intriguing blend of ancient spiritual practices and modern tools.
Yeah. But it also raises questions. Can technology deepen our connection to the divine?
Right.
Or does it risk becoming a distraction, a substitute for genuine inner work?
That's a great question. It's a tension we all have to navigate as we integrate technology into our lives, especially when it comes to something as personal and profound as spirituality. Condy doesn't offer easy answers, but he encourages us to be mindful, to use these tools thoughtfully, always remembering that they're meant to serve our spiritual growth, not replace it.
This idea of ministry as a way of being, as an expression of our deepest values, is so powerful. It feels both liberating and challenging.
Yeah.
It expands the possibilities for how we can live out our faith,
Right.
but it also requires us to be more intentional,
Yes.
more aware of the impact our choices have on others.
It's a call to move beyond ourselves, to see our lives as part of a larger tapestry, to recognize our interconnectedness and act accordingly. Connie's journey, with all its twists and turns, ultimately leads him to this place of radical acceptance of himself, of others, of the world as it is, and within that acceptance he finds a profound sense of peace and purpose.
It makes me wonder, what would Condy say to those of us listening who might be struggling to find our own sense of purpose, our own way of ministering to the world?
I think he'd encourage us to start small,
Okay.
to focus on those everyday acts of kindness and compassion. He'd remind us that we all have unique gifts to offer, that our contributions matter, even if they don't seem grand or extraordinary. And he'd probably suggest we grab some colored pencils and a journal and simply start creating, reflecting, listening to the whispers of our own hearts.
It's a beautiful reminder that sometimes the most profound transformations begin with the simplest of actions. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into Mark Condy's The Journey of Coloring and Reflection, I'm left feeling incredibly inspired.
Me too. His story offers a powerful reminder that spirituality isn't about dogma or rigid beliefs. It's about a willingness to be open to explore, to embrace the messiness of the journey, and to find those moments of grace and connection that illuminate the path forward.
So, as you go about your day, consider this. What small acts of creativity, kindness, or service can you offer to the world around you? What gifts are waiting to be shared? What connections are yearning to be made?
Until next time, keep diving deep.